Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 61 of the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, owner of One Genome Short Productions, Mr. Gabriel Rohlwald.
Let's run the picket fence at him.
Second, owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Mr. Tom Haggis.
I have no witty basketball banter to insert here, so, hoop it
Well,
up.
I didn't either.
I forgot my whistle. I should have brought a whistle.
Yeah, that's good with headphones. Thanks.
I'll bet people would sit through the whole episode if you had a whistle.
It was
Yeah,
either
'cause
a
it
whistle
would
or an
last
air
5
horn.
minutes.
Or an air horn. Third, writer, producer, actor, and Halloween judge, Captain Chaos himself, Mr. Tosh Dillenger.
Cletus, you tell him? Sectional files 33. 1 point down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let her fly. In and out. Yeah, well, it's filed. Hey, nice to be here.
I didn't know Tosh was going to be on this show, so my heart's really not in this now. So
That's right, Tom. Chaos is about to begin.
And last but not least is our special guest judge for this month, host of the Trailer Home Podcast, Mr. Dustin McDonough.
I was going to introduce myself with some sort of inspirational coach speech. On my podcast, I'm normally the moderator, so I guess I'm kind of more of a coach. In this case, I am a team player, so I will just say thank you for inviting me to be part of your team.
Well, thank you for being on. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, let's just go ahead and poke the monkey. We'll get it started.
Ladies and gentlemen, bricklayers and travelers, welcome to the main event! Tonight, two teams take the court to find out which one is a flagrant foul in our March Madness Melee! Boom shakalaka! In the first quarter, from 1986, directed by David and starring Gene Hackman, Barbara Hershey, and Dennis Hopper. Hoosiers! In the second quarter, from 2006, directed by James Gardner, starring Josh Lucas, Derek Luke, and Austin Nichols. Glory Road!
Tosh, do you have any quotes you want to throw out there before I ring the bell?
One of my favorites is when the coach, Norm, is down in his wits after, things are going bad, and then the love interest's mom says to him, "Son, doesn't shine the same dog's ass every day, but mister, you ain't seen a ray of light since you got here." I love that quote. It's good stuff.
Nice.
And it sounds like something like somebody's grandmother would say.
Absolutely.
It does.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not a foreshadowing for writing at all for me.
All right. Let's start out with our first round, which is writing.
I have this problem with these Disney sports films that they do all the time, in that they're very formulaic. And of course, I'm talking about Glory Road. They're very formulaic, and they follow the set pattern. And it's all about the scrappy underdogs coming back. And I don't know why they always rub me the wrong way. I've never really found one. I think the last time I saw one that I really liked was Mighty Ducks, which I think might have been the first one or one of the first ones they ever did. But then they're just like, oh, that Mighty Duck thing, that worked great. Can we find more sports stories to tell that way? And they have found like 45 of them. We Are Marshall and Miracle. And I don't know why I can never get fully engaged in these movies. I feel very happy at the end where I'm like, oh, hey, good for them. They won. Big shocker. But I just, for the life of me, the stories just don't grip me. And they always have some element of social injustice in them, as Glory Road does. And I think it's important that we watch movies about that kind of thing. But the fact that it's a Disney movie, it's really hard to not think of this candy-coated story. It was a lot harder, I imagine, in real life. But, I mean, at the same time, I got other stuff to talk about in the other categories. Whereas the other hand, I don't know. I'm not really sure why I love Hoosiers so much, but I get such a joy out of watching it all the time. And no one will watch it with me anymore because I talk along with it the entire time. And it drives people absolutely insane. But fortunately, I have 4 kids and none of them have seen it with me, so I get to ruin it for them. So, but I think I don't know why the Hoosiers story works, and I'd like to know if you guys know, why does Hoosiers work so well? If you think this, and these Disney ones don't, they just don't stick. Everybody talks about Hoosiers. Nobody talks about Glory Road or We Are Marshall or all $1 Million Arm. What do you guys think?
I think Hoosiers was the very first good feels sports story that really came out. It came out in the early 80s. And I think it's such a quotable movie for me. And I've seen it probably, I'm not exaggerating this at all. I've probably seen the Hoosiers probably at least 500 times. Easily. And I don't know, the story, like if it's on TV or HBO or something, I will stop and watch it. And it doesn't matter where it is. I'll know exactly where we're at and I can start line by line quoting it. It's the writing, it's the location, it's the ultimate underdog story. Even though it's not partially, it's kind of fabricated, which we'll get on later. But it just speaks to me. I don't know. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel the same way as you do, Tom. That it feels like Glory Road is pretty formulaic. They're definitely approaching a difficult topic, and maybe something that you would feel is maybe a little bit atypical for a Disney film in that respect. But I just never. Well, I felt like in some ways the storytelling was hurried. But maybe because they had to, because it was already close to 2 hours long, and and a lot of stuff was kind of rushed. Just imagine if they didn't rush it and they went into a little more detail, or took a little bit more casual approach to it. It would have been a 3-hour movie. So maybe they had to rush it in some sense. But I always felt like it was a little bit melodramatic. And also, I'd like to hear some other people's opinions on the fact that it was based on a true story, and that some of the stuff is just it's not very factually accurate throughout. That they took a little bit of liberty with some of the facts to make it more dramatic, such as the Iowa game.
Right. Yeah. I had notes about that too. The Iowa game was not as close as they made it out to be, and things like after a game the players go back to their hotel room to find dye N-words painted in blood on their walls. That didn't actually happen. Confederate flags in the crowd at the championship game, that didn't happen. But I guess if you want to try to summarize the struggle that these players and this team went through, maybe that's how you do it. But I agree with you guys overall. Glory Road just felt really melodramatic to me, and it's essentially, to me, it's Remember the Titans, but for basketball.
Yeah.
And personally, I think Remember the Titans does it better.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I agree.
One thing that I noticed during both of these movies is how people treated each other. in both Hoosiers and in Glory Road. And I wondered, and I don't know if this is the right category for it or not, but I think it is because it has something to do with the writing. It's like, do people really treat each other this way? Are they really this rude?
Absolutely.
Really? Because
Absolutely.
I couldn't. I was like, man, I've never had these kinds of interactions with people on a regular basis. And every day it would be just a struggle. Like even for the coach in Hoosiers, just to go into the school and have that woman come and like just be rude to him, and like she was rude all the time. Like, and somehow they fell in love. I don't know, but like she was just like there was always this kind of passive aggressive tone that she would take with him, and always this accusatory kind of tone, and then I don't know. I just wondered, are people really this rude all the time?
Yes. In a little background, my dad is a high school coach. He coached softball and girls basketball, and I've seen exactly what these coaches go through with fans and parents, and with my dad too. It's like if you're this is kind of going off topic, but if Johnny B, your son, isn't playing, then it's obviously the coach's fault. It's not the player's fault, and that happens all the time. And it's true. Like for how the coaches treat a new coach treat, that exactly happens to coaches all the time. Small communities like that, they love that stuff. They love eating them up, and it's terrible. It's so true though.
Yeah. Yep.
I guess I don't have enough experience with that. It seemed a little bit unrealistic to me in that respect. Like, wow, do people really act this way? Absolutely. I mean, I know some people do, but I mean, as a whole, it was like everybody in every movie, even people who were kind of like, the blackball players in Glory Road were rude to each other and mean. And sometimes it was kind of a, okay, it's a playful, making fun of each other kind of situation. But other times they're just like everybody's rude to each other all the time. I just felt like it was unrealistic. But
damn, dude. Maybe.
You should have called it Rude Road. Is that what you're saying, Gabe?
Right. Rudegers.
All right. You guys have anything else to add to the category of writing? Because there's not a whole lot there. As far as I want to correct Tom on one thing, though. I believe Disney's first sports film was The Absent-Minded Professor.
Okay. I'm talking about real dickhead. It's not even the same thing. Smart ass. What about Love Bug? Wasn't there a race at the end of that?
Yeah, there was. There was
water skiing and Freaky Friday. So
Freaky Friday, and then The Strongest Man in the World.
Okay.
Wasn't there sports at Mary Poppins once? No.
Oh, that's right. That big soccer match in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. How the hell can I forget?
Yeah.
Oh
How could you forget that? You go to Mighty Ducks.
You know what, though? That soccer match in Bedknobs and Broomsticks was more engaging than any of the games in Glory Road. I'm sorry, but it was. The monkey as a goalie, that's genius. Although I don't think you're allowed to hang from the crossbar like that.
Yeah, I don't think you can either. For Glory Road, during the national championship against Kentucky, the 3-point shooting rule is not present. This is historically accurate. The first time the NCAA experimented with the shot was 1945. The 3-point shot became popular during the 67-68 American Basketball Association season. It was not used by the NCAA until 1986. The NBA adopted the shot during the 1979-1980 season. And the actual game in Hoosiers was played between the Milan Indians and the Muncie Central Bearcats. For the movie, the South Bend Central Bears were the opponent. The true championship took place in 1954, not 1952 as in the movie, and the score was Milan 32, Muncie Central 30. High scoring
Sounds
game.
riveting.
High scoring game right there. All right, let's move on to our second category, which is
we didn't vote, but I think now we're
yeah, that's right. Sorry.
That's some killer
Told
hosting
you,
right there.
I told you I was off today. I'm sorry. Let's start with Tom.
Well, Hoosiers. So yeah.
I pretty much knew what you guys were going to pick anyway. Gabe.
Yeah, I'll go with Hoosiers too.
All right. Tosh.
Hickory, hickory, hickory.
And Dustin.
Hoosiers.
All right. Thank you. There we go. Now we can move on to the next category, which is acting.
I'll be interested in hearing from someone who's done some coaching about the portrayal of the coaches. I think the acting in both of these was suitable. I'm not sure for me personally. I'm not sure, who stood out the most. And they're definitely ensemble pieces. I mean, you have the main characters. The coaches are in one sense kind of the main characters, and I think both of the actors do a good job. I kind of like Gene Hackman, but there's also a part of me that feels like Gene Hackman's always kind of Gene Hackman. And even when he's like trying to be personable, I find him a little bit prickly. I don't find him a very like a warm kind of character ever, really. So it made it a little bit difficult for me to like him and root for him as a character. Dennis Hopper's character is kind of interesting, kind of stands out a little bit in that particular movie. Although I don't know that it's a great performance by Dennis Hopper. It's not necessarily. Well, I don't think it's necessarily his best performance. I think he's done a lot more interesting things in the past. So I don't know. It's pretty even for me. But what I want to know is, like, do all coaches act like that? Because I felt like there was a distinct similarity. Does that make sense? A definite similarity between the two coaches and the way they were portrayed in these films. This kind of like, anger prone, and they're uptight, and they're always holding something in their hands during the game. They've got some sort of playbook or something, and they're always waving that around or throwing it or something. And I'm just wondering, do coaches really act like that?
A lot of coaches do. Basketball coaches especially. They seem to just be a lot more uptight in my experience. I've worked with a few before, and basketball coaches in particular can be a little bit of a dick sometimes. And but you know what? I'll actually disagree with you a little bit. I like Gene Hackman in this one, because even though he is kind of angry at times, to me the difference between the two stories, and I probably should have mentioned this in writing, but in Hoosiers, it's really more of a redemption story for Gene Hackman's coach, whereas Glory Road is more the ensemble piece to me. And so even though you do see the players, the different players in Hoosiers, and you get you get decent acting out of them, Gene Hackman carries Hoosiers for me. Glory Road, Josh Lucas, I feel like Josh Lucas is a poor man's Matthew McConaughey. Like,
I agree. I totally agree.
All right.
I felt that the whole time. The whole time I was watching it, I was just like, "Oh, this would be so much better with Matthew McConaughey in it."
Yeah.
like recent Matthew McConaughey, because I feel like he's matured a lot.
Yeah.
Like recent stuff he's been in, he's been really good in.
Well, and we did We Are Marshall the same year for Disney, which is just their the football version of this movie. So
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why he didn't do this, because he was doing We Are Marshall.
Yeah, probably. He probably would have done Glory Road if he had the opportunity. But he's a football guy anyway.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Gene Hackman too. I thought, I kind of saw a lot of Bobby Knight in him a little bit. I think he was kind of channeling a little bit of Bobby Knight.
Yep.
The former Indiana and Texas Tech coach. he worked for me, and I agree, he carried the film. He really did. It was the story was not necessarily about the high school winning the state championship. It was about him coming back from his terrible thing he did to that kid when he was a college coach to now, controlling his anger to lead these young men to a state championship. I agree. He was fantastic. I want to talk about the actual basketball playing, the acting of that. Glory Road, it is terrible. Absolutely terrible. There's fundamental wise, there are things that some of these players are doing that there were no way in hell doing college basketball. Like look at a dribble when they dribble, stuff like that. And I get that. They probably just had some athletes come in and try to replicate certain things, but in Glory Road, the basketball playing is bad. It is really bad. Where in Hoosiers, it's pretty good actually. What the stuff they run is real offices, and from like a basketball standpoint, acting wise, I thought Hoosiers was stronger. Just from what I can tell. And I
felt like the actors in Glory Road were more athletic, though. To me, they seemed more athletic. It seemed to me in Hoosiers they relied a lot more on editing for some of that stuff, and those actors were good actors, but not necessarily all that particularly athletic. But maybe I was wrong. Especially what's the name of the kid Jimmy
Chitwood.
Jimmy Chitwood.
Yeah, they want Jimmy to come back, and that's another complaint of mine. I should have maybe mentioned that in the writing too, but because basically nothing happens. Gene Hackman gets kicked out, and they don't win anything without him coming back, and it's really. I mean, the story then at that point he comes back, and it's like that's the whole reason that they do anything at all, that they have any chance at anything, and so it's really a redemption story for him and not Gene Hackman. But anyway, I felt like his form when he was shooting looked awkward to me. How did you feel about his shooting style, Tosh?
I thought it was really good actually.
Oh, really? The way his elbow kind of.
Nope, it was very
bent
mechanical.
In and that kind of thing. It looked really awkward to me. Like he would miss every shot.
Nope, that was good. Okay. Here's a fun fact I'm gonna throw out there. This is I don't know if it's doing anything, but Ollie, you know how he was portrayed as like the terrible player, and he made the 2 shots underhand. He was actually the best basketball player on the floor. He played college basketball, and he was the best player. Isn't that funny?
That's good.
It is.
Yep. But form wise, if I was looking if we're going to form, which we're not, it's not a category, I would definitely go Hoosiers. But that's just me. And fun fact too, Tim Floyd, the former Iowa State coach, he was the basketball consultant on Glory Road because he was assistant under that coach. The story was about at one time.
Just go ahead and take my trivia, Tosh. It's fine.
And here's the crazy thing, Mike. I'm not looking any of this up. This is all off the top of my head. That's how good I am.
You've seen it a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
I yelled Jimmy Chitwood at the TV at least a dozen times when I'm watching the movie. Like when he makes a shot, it's Jimmy Chitwood all the time. and part of that comes from when I played high school basketball. I was the Jimmy Chitwood on our team, so I was actually really good. So and I had a really good long range jumper. So. Still do, but I agree with Dustin.
What was your nickname then? Was it Tommy? Did they call you Tommy Haggis?
They call me Tommy Gunn.
Tommy Gunn.
Tommy Gunn.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like
they came up with that like in 30 seconds. So
right, they still call you that for other reasons, but
wasn't that the bad guy in Rocky 4?
No,
Tommy Gunn.
5, Rocky 5. I think Rocky 5. Yeah.
Yeah, because that came out, and I'm like, oh man, took my game. Tommy Gunn Morrison. So, but I agree with Dustin. I think Gene Hackman's really kind of the heart of Hoosiers, and the other guys are much more supporting. Unlike Glory Road, where it really is more of an ensemble. There is no I in Gene, so that's. I think. I just want to say the entire time I was watching Glory Road, this probably happened to you guys. We were watching these movies, and you're like, "Oh, I got to remember to say this during the podcast." And I just want to say that Josh Lucas cannot act. He just broke.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. He's a horrible actor. And I'm looking at his filmography, and it's really a reflection of someone who does not perform well at their job.
Let's talk about the wonderful ensemble cast of Stealth, Tom. I mean, you're leaving that movie out.
Nope, I'm including that too. So, all apologies to those of you in Space Warriors and Hideaway and Little Murder. He was in Lincoln Lawyer. Boy, that's confusing. He was in Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey. That's like a brain fuck right there. So
Was he just a stand-in for him, Matthew
No,
McConaughey?
he was the Pontiac lawyer. They were.
I know. I was kidding.
we're checking. We need to check the lighting. Can we get Josh in here?
Matthew's gonna be sitting here. Josh, can you sit here for a little bit? Thanks.
No, God, don't say anything, Josh. Don't ruin it.
No, I agree. Josh Lucas, he sucks. And if we were in our Halloween episode, I'd totally have you register at joshlucassucks.com, but we're not. So we'll have to wait till October for that.
There's not a single. I can't see a single good movie on his list here.
Well, now you've got me wanting to look.
American Psycho is a pretty good movie, but I don't remember his part in it.
I don't remember him.
Is he just one of like his colleagues?
Oh, stand in for Christian Bale. There you go.
Yeah, he didn't really portray much passion to me, for such a,
Oh my God, that's right. He was in Hulk. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the Ang Lee one. That movie.
There's a lot
was
of desire there.
Yeah. Okay. Here. Okay. Yeah. Then there's Poseidon. Yeah.
I thought Zoe Deschanel's sister was pretty good in Glory Road.
Are they actually sisters? Because they look like they could be.
They are.
They are.
Is that actually her sister?
I never refer to her as Emily Deschanel. She's just Zoe Deschanel's sister. She's like when you want Zoe Deschanel, but you want just a little more pretty and a little less cute. You go with Emily.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and vote. We'll vote this time. Let's start off with Tom.
Oh, I wanted to give credit to John Voight's earlobes, but John Voight's
And nose. Yes.
John Voight's earlobes.
And that's another one.
Amazing, and really great to see John Voight playing someone who I imagine is very close to his actual self. But yeah, I'm going to go Hoosiers.
I didn't feel like his performance was all that great either.
No, I think he just showed up and was like, play John Voight, and he was like, all right,
Here, we'll put these prosthetics on you.
All right,
play
Tosh.
a racist named Adolf. Good luck.
Hoosiers, definitely, no question.
Gabe.
Well, I think it's maybe closer for me than it is for others, but I think definitely Hoosiers for me too.
All right, and Dustin.
Hackman and Hopper are awesome, and it also would make a good law firm name. And
That's true. That's true.
So I vote Hoosiers.
All right. All right. The horrible Matthew McConaughey light Josh Lucas gained 43 pounds to play Coach Don Haskins.
What?
Yeah.
Really? Like, what would he look like 43 pounds lighter?
Oh,
He didn't look very heavy.
In the movie before this, he played an actual beanpole. So yeah, that makes sense.
He was a stand-in for a beat
His best
in a commercial.
Stand in.
The scene with Jimmy Chitwood and Coach Dale talking while Jimmy shot baskets was filmed in one take. Maris Valanis, probably saying that wrong, said that he wasn't even listening to him. I was just concentrating on making them, and I made one, and they kept going on. So there you go.
That's what we call on fire.
On fire. Sorry, a little NBA jam coming back.
Little boom shakalaka.
Boom shakalaka.
Nail in the coffin.
See, it's getting hot in here.
Let's go to directing.
Yeah, so this goes kind of back to writing. Glory Road, very formula in the way it was edited and directed. Hoosier's kind of the same thing, though. I mean, it's kind of hard. I this one I struggle with the most out of any of them. I'm leaning towards Hoosiers just because I for some reason I love that very first opening shot of where he's driving through the Indiana country and he's trying to find where he's going. For some reason that just gets me. I don't know why, but it does. And And Glory Road doesn't have that for me. They kind of replicate it when they're on the bus. All the recruits are on the bus coming to the college for the first time. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this category is pretty close for me too. I didn't think the directing on either of these was really particularly outstanding, and it is kind of formulaic. And the interesting thing to me is that the director of Glory Road, that's the only thing he ever directed. That, according to IMDb, that's it. So I wonder. I don't know what that means. I was going to try to do a little research and see if, I don't know. I don't know why he stopped directing after that. And I feel like that means they just, okay, we know what we want. We just need to get somebody in here to execute it. We just need somebody who can tell other people what to do, not necessarily, imbue it with some sort of, kind of extra meaning or style or anything like that. So I just. But then again, the director of Hoosiers, that's kind of his thing. It seems like, it's like, well, is it really a stretch for him to do this? This is kind of his thing. It's sports, comeback kind of, feel good type movies. I don't know. I just didn't feel like there was really anything outstanding from a directing standpoint in either of these. Am I wrong?
No, I agree. I didn't find anything completely outstanding with it. So for me, it came down to really the most integral part of any sports movie. One of the most integral parts are the game scenes. And we talked about those a little bit earlier. But, the way those are shot and edited and the way they come together. And the other thing for me is that I want to know going into the game what's at stake, what happens if you win, what happens if you lose.
Right.
And for me, in Hoosiers, I had a little bit more of a tough time figuring out exactly what was at stake in each game, other than trying to bring the team together. Yeah. And like when they made it to the championship game near the end, I don't think I even realized that they had made it to the championship game until after they won the game that got them there. And suddenly they were saying, "Oh, we're going to the championship game." I was like, "Oh, okay, great." So, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but
you obviously were not paying attention. They clearly established that.
All
I've
right.
seen it 500 times. They established that. Let me tell you.
Right. Fair enough. But the other thing that works for me, actually more in Glory Road, is radio announcers. They hardly use radio announcers at all in Hoosiers. They use them in Glory Road, and if they're used well, they can really be used well to set up the game and explain what's at stake. Now, my problem though with Glory Road and the radio announcers is that at times they say things that are really obvious. Like in the championship game, there are a couple times where the radio announcer says, "Adolph Rupp doesn't look happy." Well, and you see a shot of him and he looks pissed off. So yeah, no kidding. You don't have to tell me that. I can see that. So I don't know. It's kind of a wash for me, I guess. But those game scenes are what's most important to me when I'm looking at this.
No, I totally agree with you. I think that's I'm a baseball movie fanatic, and I don't know why. I mean, I played baseball when I was younger, but now it's like I just love watching baseball films like Moneyball. Sorry, got a frog in my throat. Like Moneyball and Major League, and I just love watching baseball films. And I think you're right. Like they always set up, in all sports films, they set up what's at stake. And I totally felt like it was like, we just got to bring the team together. It was, and then the other one was like, we got to overcome diversity. And it's, I don't know. It was too much. It wasn't shown. It wasn't verbalized, I think, enough for the audience. Like, I mean, I understand what they were trying to do, but I don't think it was telegraphed well. Yeah?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there were some missed opportunities on Glory Road too. I mean, there's the one time we're in the huddle.
There's a second one?
Yeah, there's a lot of missed opportunities, but there's the one part where he's he tells him, he's like, I want you guys out on the floor when they break out of their huddle. And there's a really great opportunity for the Kentucky guys to break out of their huddle and turn around and see the 5 of them on the court. You could have sent chills through the audience with that shot.
Right.
I mean, scare the audience and be like, oh God, these guys are dead. And and put some of that fear into the audience too. And I was waiting for it and it didn't happen. And I'm like, what are you? I was like, all right, it's a Disney movie. We can't scare anybody.
Yeah.
Well, speaking to the game scenes, I do think that would be particularly challenging to film a scene like that and make it seem, continuous and make it flow appropriately. Especially if you're doing several shots of the same action and you need to try to cut it together in such a way that it seems like it's all happening in the appropriate order and the continuity is good. So I think that would definitely be challenging from a directing standpoint. So maybe I should give them a little more credit. But then again, a lot of those game scenes are really cut down. Like you can. There's a lot of these almost kind of montage type sequences where one team scores and then they show the other team score, and you don't get a real flow for the game except that, points are being scored and one team is ahead of the other now, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I do feel like it would be challenging, and so I guess I have to give them credit for that.
There's a lot of editing issues on both sides on Glory Road and Hoosiers. There's times where the scoreboard will be shown in the background of a shot.
Yeah.
And then the next shot, the score be totally different. And I get that. That's hard to do. But it happens a ton in both movies. Like, example, in Hoosiers, the score was like 4-2, and like when Jimmy was doing a jump shot. And then after the jump shot, they'll zoom into the scoreboard, and it's like 24-22 or something like that. And I'm like, okay, so they used the shot from earlier in the game to put in here. But yeah, it's hard. I get that. It'd almost be better if they didn't put the scoreboard in any of the shots, but that's almost impossible. Well,
and that's the kind of thing that nowadays might be able to be remedied with visual effects more easily, because this is somewhat related. And I was watching Kingsman the other day, and there's a sequence near the end where they're having a countdown clock. And it's projected. This countdown is projected on these big screens in this room. And there are several different shots where it changes angles, but you can still kind of see those screens. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Will the countdown remain consistent between these cuts? And I was looking for some sort of a continuity error there at some point, but there wasn't. The clock stayed consistent, and it made me realize that it was probably a visual effect. It was probably something they added later. It was probably the screen was probably just a green screen or something, and they added that countdown later. And that's something they could definitely do now more easily than when either of these two movies were made, probably.
This is totally off topic, but I'll tell you a movie that does do that well is Star Trek VI. And that was, they have clocks all over the bridge, and they keep the time pretty consistently from shot to shot and from scene to scene. So anyway,
that's true.
Yeah.
And I've worked with a gaffer that used to do a lot. Well, he still does a lot of work over Iowa City, Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids area. And you guys remember the TV show Coach? Yep. And so they used the Hawkeye Stadium as where they played, like the outside, and they actually used the scoreboard for one of the games that they were playing. So they actually had to go out there, and it was during a blizzard, and it was cold as hell, and they're using film. And they had to sit. They actually drove. They drove a van out there and had to take shots of the scoreboard. And they would have to wait for a little bit of time to change, and then they had to have to change the score, and then they would take the shot, go back in, warm up. So there's ways of making sure, like, you have that written into the script, that you kind of try to do that. That's what a continuity director would do, I guess.
I also wanted, I don't know if this is the right spot for it, but the little nod they give to Rupp at the end, and Kentucky in general, and just like, oh, by the way, he had black basketball players on his team eventually, and they hired Tubby Smith. He's black, and it was just kind of a, hey, Kentucky, sorry for making your most famous coach of all time the bad guy, but you weren't that bad. And it was just, if I was a Kentucky fan, I'd be pissed.
They were really pissed about it. Like, they petitioned to get the movie removed from the theaters in Kentucky. So
really?
I'm sure I'm sure the two theaters in there. I mean, it wasn't really hard to get rid of, but still.
They only have two theaters. Wow.
Kentucky, for God's sakes. Yeah, their fans were pissed. If you can Google about it, there's still stuff out there about how unfair it was to him. He was not a racist. Blah blah blah.
There were people in Texas who were pissed off too because of the scene where stuff gets thrown at the players out on the court and then they go back to their hotel room and the blood is on the walls. Like I said earlier, that happened in like East Texas, except none of that stuff actually happened, and so there were people there who were pissed off about that.
Damn East Texans, they always get pissed about something.
Damn East Texans and Kentuckians.
Gosh.
Always up in an uproar. All right, let's.
They take their basketball serious in East Texas. God, Jesus.
I'm sure somebody's mad that they weren't portrayed racist enough.
Yeah. Well, if we have any listeners in either of those states, I'd like to hear from them. Please let us know your thoughts on these movies and how these coaches and other folks were portrayed from your viewpoint.
And send all your hate mail to Tosh.
Right.
It's fine. Yep. That's Dillenger T.
So, Gabe, I've actually gone through and tried to do some research on James Gartner.
Apparently he does a lot of television commercials.
Yeah, that's all I'm finding. And he also shares the name of, I don't know if it's the same guy, but The Mark of Zorro from 1975. And
it can't be, can it?
I don't think it is. But that's like all I can find about him. It just says Awards, Directors Guild of America Award for Outstanding Directing Commercials and Best Sports Movie ESPY Award. And we'll get to the voting. I haven't forgotten, but I also wanted to point out that someone posted on his IMDb message board, KC19426, stated in October of 2015, as I just finished Glory Road for about the 1,000th time, it still gives me chills. Thank you for such amazing work. I know a few people that might disagree with that, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, it's not terribly directed. It's just not anything that's particularly outstanding.
Right. So let's go ahead and vote. We'll start with Tosh.
Look, mister, there's two kinds of dumb. The guy that gets naked, runs in the snow, and barks at the moon, and the guy who does the same thing in my living room. The first one doesn't matter. The second one, you're kind of forced to deal with. And then Coach Dale says, is that some sort of threat? Then George comes back and says, I don't know, Cletus, drug your tired old bones in here. Must have owed you something fierce. Fact is, mister, you screwing up this team. I'm pressing to hide strap your ass to a pine rail and send you up to Moon Lane. Classic.
So I'll
Hoosiers. Hoosiers.
I was kind of taking that, Dustin.
This is actually really close for me, and I have a hard time deciding, but I think I'm going to go with Hoosiers.
All right. Tom?
This is the part where I was going to give Glory Road like a big speech. Like, come on, Glory Road, pull it together. This is the podcast you've been waiting for. But clearly they suck, so I'm voting for Hoosiers.
All right. And Gabe?
Well, I think both of these are
thank
competent.
You, Gabe.
All right, thanks.
Sorry, go ahead.
Did you get my vote from that? Could you figure out what I was going to vote for?
No.
Oh. Well, then you cut me off just a little too soon.
Go ahead, man. Sorry.
I think they're both competently directed, neither outstanding. I think I'll go with Hoosiers.
All right. Ouch. So, it's pretty hard to find trivia about these directors of either film, but during one of the games, Hickory is shown playing Decatur. The director from Hoosiers was born in Decatur, Indiana. There you go. And apparently someone really loves Glory Road. They've watched it 1,000 times. Let's move on to our last and final round, which is overall.
Okay, well, for me, this was the first time that I had seen Glory Road. And believe it or not, it was actually the first time I had seen Hoosiers, too.
What? Shut your mouth.
I know.
Way.
It's the first time I've seen it all the way through, so I'm right there with you.
There you go.
Tom, it's time to spin off our own podcast.
What, the Hoosier podcast?
Yeah, Hoosiers.
I would talk about it. Tom and I would talk about it intelligently forever if we had to.
Jimmy Chitwood!
We'd yell that back and forth for hours, and people would download it.
See you in the funny papers. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I had the benefit, I guess you could say, of watching both of these with fresh eyes, and so to me it comes to what do I have the best gut reaction to, and in Hoosiers, they obviously there's drama, there's humor, there's sadness, there's joy, all the different emotions. And in Glory Road, they try to do the same thing, but a lot of the humor, instead of laughing, I found myself just rolling my eyes and groaning most of the time. And so, for me, the other thing I like about Hoosiers is that I'm from a small town similar to the one you see in Hoosiers, and we were pretty crazy about our basketball, and I was just hit with lots of memories watching the movie. Just the crowd shots and caravans driving from your hometown to the visiting team's town, and it just gave me lots of nice warm feelings. So I guess I'm curious about how you guys feel about any of that stuff, or how do they make their impressions on you guys?
I was kind of the same way. I mean, for 3 years of high school, I went to a very small high school. It only had 150 kids, and so a lot of that, and playing in the tiny old gym, and we didn't have a lot of guys on our basketball team. I made the team, so what does that tell you? But I was the Ollie. All right, I'm sorry, I have to admit that. But yeah, it was same for me. There was a lot of those memories of high school basketball and getting on the bus and everything. So I mean, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I couldn't relate much to Glory Road. I never played in the NCAA championship.
So Tom, I have a question for you. Did you shoot your free throws underhand?
No, I did not. I really did. I still have a pretty good shot. I can still put it in from 23 feet out, but I know nobody believes me because I'm 5'3", but I'll smoke your ass on the court.
I believe you. I'm not gonna.
I believe you too. I can't shoot for anything.
I would challenge you.
Tosh would.
It's on, Tosh. Let's go.
Right. We got to
do the Hoosier podcast first.
Right. We'll do it while we're shooting hoops.
Jimmy
Like you guys can play like a game of horse or something while you do the podcast. It'd be awesome.
I think we're onto something.
I've got my shorts on. I'm good.
It's kind of like the Jerry Seinfeld thing where they go comedians in cars getting coffee or whatever it's called. It's kind of like that. You could have guests on to play a game of horse while you record your podcast.
That's something.
It is something.
It is something.
I don't know if it'd be very fun to listen to with the basketball.
I think it'd have to be a video podcast.
It might have to be, to actually see the shots in the form and
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
And the really tight shorts.
oh.
Is there any other kind? Come on. John Stockton is my personal hero, so.
Right. Absolutely.
Like.
Yeah. So I went to a small school as well, and my dad was a basketball coach. And not to brag, my team did win the high school state championship. I have a lot of same things relation-wise to the story. We didn't have an abusive coach by any standards, but the small town caravan to the state tournament, and all that just rings true. And I can't wait. And Greta, my daughter, she's 9. She's watched with me and she likes it. And I can't wait for my son to watch it with me, and so they can see this great story. And hopefully we'll watch it a lot together throughout when they get older. So Hoosiers definitely for me. Glory Road, I get what they're trying to do, and I mean that's a cool story, but they just didn't execute it very well, and it's very formula esque, if you will. Hoosiers definitely for me.
All right. Well, is there anything else you guys want to say? Anything about music? Anything about? Okay. Well, there's not much more to say about it, I guess.
Hoosiers music was fantastic.
For the most part.
Yeah.
There was a couple times where it was like, oh, I know what year this was made.
Right. Yeah.
Jerry Goldsmith.
Well,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember. I was trying to think if the music stood out in either one in particular to me. I do remember liking the music at the beginning of Hoosiers. When it first started, I was like, oh, I kind of like this music. But then after that, I think maybe it was the kind of thing where it just kind of passed under the radar. I didn't really think about it much, which is fine. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't remember being blown away after the beginning of it.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
It was kind of forgettable for me, but usually I try to pay attention to it. But kind of,
and that's definitely something that can be, can age a film. Kind of,
yeah.
Is the music, and sometimes a film could be a good film, but the music kind of ruins it. Although I didn't feel that. I personally didn't feel like it was dated necessarily.
Here's something you can look for people that are listening to this. If you watch Hoosiers, look at the courts of the Hoosier gyms. You can see where they sanded off what the lane is today. You can see where they sanded those lines off and then shrunk the lane to what it was back then. You can see that in like almost every court if you look closely enough.
What are you doing? What are you doing, man? Don't defile my favorite basketball movie. What are you doing?
No. I think it's. I don't know. Just
I hate knowing shit like that. God.
You can see it.
Then it
so
stands
clear.
out.
You're gonna ruin it.
It does stand out. Like especially in the Hickory gym, and that's actually where that is actually their gym that they played in, and they still play in today. Amazing enough, you can definitely see the lane was sanded off and then repainted. You definitely can see it. Look for that. A little fun fact for you.
Thanks. That's great. Loved it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Really awesome.
All right.
And also one more fun fact.
All right.
Yeah, ruin something else. Do it.
Sure.
Yeah. Fun fact.
Okay.
The team of Hoosiers, they actually the year before they won state title, they only lost like 2 games, so they were actually favored to win state that year. So depicting all those losses they had during the actual movie didn't actually happen. They were something like it was like 24-1 or something. So they were actually really good, and people knew they were gonna be good. So the whole coach thing that never happened either. It was just a whole different coach. So it's a big lie that we're watching, just like most things.
Thanks for that. That's great. Awesome. Anything else?
Yep.
All right.
You want to tell me that's not really Gene Hackman's real laugh, you dick?
It's not. And Shooter never got actually drunk either. He actually just spinned around before they did the take, so it looked like he's drunk.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
No, yeah, he'd spin around. They'd give him a countdown before they.
So he'd spin around, act like they get dizzy, and then that's how he act like he was drunk. Yep.
You don't really like this
Method
movie.
acting.
No, I love this movie. I've
Well,
seen it so many times. I just
you
need to
wouldn't ruin
dissect it.
You wouldn't ruin it like this.
All right.
Well, when we do our podcast over Horse, we'll discuss it more.
It's dead, Tosh. That podcast is dead. I don't want to work with you ever again.
And just
Fine,
as
fine.
quickly as
We
it
won't-
started, it
We
ended.
won't do it over Horse. We'll do it over Pig. We'll play Pig instead. It'll make
Yeah.
it shorter.
Yeah, you'll do it
Jimmy.
over my dead. You'll do it over my dead body.
That's gonna be a long game. Your dead body. That's gonna be a long time to spell out.
Over your dead.
Over your dead body.
Yeah, that's even longer.
Yeah. All right, Dustin.
So I go with Hoosiers.
All right. Tom.
Glory. No, Hoosiers.
Wow, you almost messed up real bad there.
Nah.
Gabe.
I think we're gonna have a landslide here. I'm gonna go with Hoosiers too.
All right. And Tosh.
Let's win this game for all the small schools that never had a chance to get here. So sad. Hoosiers.
Hoosiers was renamed Best Shot in Europe because most Europeans wouldn't know what a Hoosier was.
I
That's
don't
why
know what a Hoosier is. What is a
Yeah,
Hoosier?
we don't know what a Hoosier is.
I mean, I know it indicates something. A basketball player
Indiana.
from Indiana.
No.
What is
It's-
a Hoosier?
It's if you're from Indiana, and I will give you the definition.
Education.
Resident of the U.S. state of Indiana. The origin of the term remains a matter of debate within the state, but Hoosier was in general use by the 1840s, having been popularized. Man, I am off tonight. By
Say that again.
by Richmond resident John Finley's 1833 poem, "The Hoosier's Nest." So there you go.
Still, that doesn't explain very much to me. I mean, I get that it means it like a resident of Indiana, basically.
Jesus, Gabe, Google it. Who fucking cares?
I do. We need to educate our listeners. Everybody was probably thinking the same thing.
Hickory.
Some people say it's a term about gangs of workers from Indiana under the direction of a Mr. Hoosier. So there you go. All right.
Okay.
There's your history lesson.
Hey, Gabe. Gabe,
Yeah.
get on my shoulder. Get on my shoulders quick. We gotta measure the rim. Make sure it's 10 feet.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
But Tom already said he was.
He's done.
He's
Oh.
done. You're my new wingman.
Yeah, but you guys can't play during sunlight hours.
We can't. No, Tosh and I can't.
Night games.
Basketball in the
Always night
dark.
games.
Now, right now,
That's
we've
why-
lost the, we
Can't
lost
play
the
on full
albino
moon nights
contingent.
either.
Nice
'Cause
catch.
that's even the reflected sunlight is a little too much.
That's why I always played basketball, because I was inside and the sun could not hurt me.
Somehow he still got a sunburn. In Glory Road, I hate to take this away from you, Tom, but prosthetic ears, cheeks, and nose was added to John Voight to make his angular face more round, like
Oh
Coach.
no!
Rupp.
Please
I
don't
didn't
ruin
notice.
Glory. Please don't ruin Glory Road for
I'm
me.
sorry, I just totally ruined that film for you.
Oh jeez, yeah, I'm never gonna be able to watch it again.
Okay, talk about two films that are a little difficult to get trivia on, at least fun trivia.
I've got something for you.
yeah.
I've got something for you.
Yeah.
I figured this out just using my own two eyes. So in Glory Road, in the game against Iowa, if you look really carefully, number 50 for Iowa is actually former Iowa State player Paul Shirley.
Yep, I saw that too.
Really?
Yes, it is.
Huh.
Like the actual actor.
Yeah, the
playing
guy
that
the guy who's playing number 50 is Paul Shirley, the former Iowa State player.
Eagle Eye.
Yeah.
And the reason he got that the gig is because Tim Floyd again was the basketball expert on the film, and he played for Tim Floyd.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about trivia here?
All right. Well, that's a good poll, actually. Let's move on to our recommendations. I don't really have a lot of math to do, so this is going to be easy. We'll start with Tom.
Damn it! So those sports movies are hard to come by. I'm gonna recommend the greatest sports movie of all time, Bull Durham, which was one of our fighters a long while back.
Yeah.
And Bull Durham is absolutely fantastic. It's baseball, which is the greatest sport of all time, and I
agree
absolutely
with
love it. What?
I agree with you.
Yeah, I know. Bull
Yeah.
Durham is amazing, and it's funny, and it's sexy, and the script is rock solid, way better than Glory Road, and it's really, really a great sports movie. Best sports movie of all time. I don't care what you say.
Gabe.
Well, I kind of struggled. I like to be topical like that as well, but this time I'm not really going to suggest a sports movie. I'm going to recommend a show on HBO called Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. Now, it does cover sports topics from time to time. They've spent a lot of time on the FIFA issues and other sports topics. But I just find it a really interesting, engaging, enlightening show, and it's kind of funny at the same time. I've really been enjoying Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. So if you get a chance, check it out.
All right. Tosh.
I'm gonna go with a TV show as well. Better Call Saul. We're in season 2 right now. I don't know if you guys ever recommended this in the past or not, so I apologize. So it's a spin-off of Breaking Bad. It's kind of the prequel, if you will, about the Saul character, the lawyer character, and it is fantastic. Once again, if you like Breaking Bad, you'll like Better Call Saul.
Isn't that
I second that.
Bob Odenkirk, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
the comedian.
Yep.
Yep, it's fantastic. And season 2 is off to a great start. So it's on Sunday nights or Monday nights, one of those two. Check it out.
Monday nights.
Yeah.
All right. And Dustin, I want to first off thank you again for joining us. I hope you've had fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
You will be welcome back anytime. sorry you had to watch Glory Road. But
It's all right.
What's your recommendation for this month?
Well, when I was invited on the show and I found out that we were going to talk about these two movies, I immediately thought of the excellent documentary series called Nimrod Nation. I don't know if you guys know anything about this. It's from 2007. It originally aired on the Sundance Channel. It's like an 8-part series. And it's about a little town called Watersmeet. It's in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And like Tosh and I were talking about earlier, it's about a small town where everybody knows everybody else. And their basketball team is called the Nimrods. And that's like a biblical reference. It means like a hunter or a fisherman. And that's pretty much what everybody in this area, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is. And they're crazy about their basketball. Even more than it's about basketball, it's about life in this small town. And so people ride their snowmobiles to the games, for example, and they show that.
Nice.
They follow various people in the town as they go about their daily lives, like the old guys chatting over coffee at the diner and parent-teacher relationships. And there's an episode about teen pregnancy in the town and high school kids as they're screwing around on the weekend. And it's really fun to watch. It's a nice portrait of this town. So I enjoy it. You can actually get the DVD on Amazon for like $10, which I did so that I could just rewatch it so I could talk about it here. And it's pretty good. I like it. Nimrod Nation.
All right, I have to check that out. I'm going to see if it's on Netflix. Possibly.
It wasn't when I checked, but
Okay. All right, I'll have to keep an eye on it.
yeah.
All right, well, thank you. So Tosh and I both grew up tall. Tosh actually grew a little taller than I did, but my entire time growing up, I was always asked if I was going to play basketball. So basketball kind of became a dirty word for me. I just did not like it. But I do shoot basketball games, go figure, for the Iowa Energy every once in a while. I'm on the rotation, and I do love to shoot some basketball with a camera. It's very fun and energetic to shoot. So I was trying to think, sports movie. I immediately, of course, went to a baseball film, kind of like Tom. But I decided I'm going to go with a comedy that kind of put the two together, and I'm going to suggest, which someone probably already did on this show, I'm going to suggest the 1998 Matt Stone, Trey Parker film, Basketball. I love this movie. It is absolutely hilarious, and I imagine most of the people listening to this have already seen it, but maybe you should go back and rewatch it and just kind of laugh. You want to talk about a sports movie that tries to throw in all the troubles that you would see normally in other sports movies. They kind of throw it in there and make fun of it, which Matt Stone and Trey Parker are great at doing. So, yeah, check out Basketball. All right, let's find out who won. This one's going to be easy.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Hoosiers!
Picket fence was deadly. Couldn't be stopped.
Yeah, oh man, that was rough. That was rough for Glory Road. All right, let's start off where people can find you on the web. Maybe come watch you take a shower. Tom.
CheshireMoonFilms.com. If I'm not there, I'm usually down at the gym working on my pull-up J. You know how it is, Dropping threes from deep. It's what I do. The big guys can't stop me, and the little guys wish, they are me, so that's cool.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Gabe.
You can find me at onegenomeshort.com or on Facebook. I will not be down at the gym shooting J's.
Is that it?
That's it.
Oh, okay, thank you. Tosh.
Reason he's not down shooting because he throws his bricks up. He's making a house. You can find me on Twitter at tshed4041 and same website as Gabe, onegenomeshort.com. One quick thing I thought of another documentary that's really good for basketball is called Hoop Dreams. So that one's really good. It follows two kids coming up from youth all the way to college. Check it out. I thought of that while we were talking about that. But Hoop Dreams, check it out.
Thank you, Tosh. Dustin.
You can find me on the Trailer Home podcast. Some friends and I, we talk about movie trailers, new movie trailers, whether we think they're any good, whether they make us want to see the movie. And we also review movies and sometimes TV. And we try to have fun with it. We're at trailerhomepodcast.com. We're on iTunes. And we're also on Facebook and Twitter. So check us out, please.
Awesome.
That's a good show.
Thanks.
I enjoy it.
And
cool.
I will be listening as well. So
Awesome.
You guys haven't done the new Ghostbusters trailer yet, have you?
You know what? I think we might be doing that the week that we're recording this show.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I definitely, I believe I might try and send you an email or something about it. It's getting a lot of hate, but, you can find me on Facebook and on Twitter. And of course, the podcast, we would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. For April, Charlton Heston takes on Christian Bale to see who is truly worthy to lead the Jews out of Egypt. Exodus, Gods and Kings versus the Ten Commandments. It's going to be a long viewing time for us. So for Tame, yeah, we're going to start calling Tom Tame. For Tom, Gabe, Tosh, Dustin, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Buddy, get the ball to Jimmy. Top the key.
Jimmy Chetwood!
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.